Anthony and our podcast. Thanks for joining us for this special episode. We have breaking news. Prince Andrew and Virginia Guiffre have settled their case. We have everything for you right here on this episode, including a source that's revealing the amount of the settlement as well as reaction to this settlement, which, if you're following this case like we have been, you're probably pretty shocked. I know I was when I heard just moments ago that this case was going to be settled. Let's all hop into it. Brought to you by our good friends over at Jumpstart Coffee Company. More on them in a moment. Let's bring up on the screen for you, for those of you that are watching on YouTube or Spotify or Facebook. If you're listening via Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, I suggest you go over to one of our video outlets to check this out. But this is the letter that was sent to Judge Kaplan earlier today on Tuesday, February 15th. It is from David Boies, the lawyer representing Virginia Guiffre, and he writes, "We write jointly with counsel for defendant to advise the court that the parties have reached a settlement in principle of the above referenced action. The parties anticipate filing a stipulation of dismissal of the case within 30 days, see Exhibit A. In the interim, the parties request that the court suspend all deadlines. We appreciate the time and effort the court has devoted to this matter. Respectfully, David Boies." CCing all counsel of record. Exhibit A is a statement, and here it is. Virginia Guiffre and Prince Andrew have reached an out-of-court settlement. The parties will file a stipulated dismissal upon Miss Guiffre's receipt of the settlement, the sum of which is not being disclosed. We do have a source who's saying what it is. Share that with you in a moment. Prince Andrew intends to make a substantial donation to Miss Guiffre's charity of support of victims' rights. Prince Andrew has never intended to malign Miss Guiffre's character, and he accepts that she has suffered both as an established victim of abuse and as a result of unfair public attacks. It is known that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked countless young girls over many years. Prince Andrew regrets his association with Epstein and commends the bravery of Miss Guiffre and other survivors in standing up for themselves and others. He pledges to demonstrate his regret for his association with Epstein by supporting the fight against the evils of sex trafficking and by supporting its victims. So that was the word that came down in a pretty shocking revelation that this suit was being settled out of court. They said that the amount of money would not be released. We do have a source who is telling us what the amount of money is. I will share that with you in a moment. First, I want to tell you about Jumpstart Coffee Company. If you enjoy the content on our podcast, if you're curious about the Prince Andrew stuff, which, by the way, we're going to continue to cover past today because there will be more on this, then please support our good friends over at Jumpstart Coffee Company. They're the ones that make doing the podcast possible. By the way, they also support the Navy SEAL Foundation. So if you buy a bag of Jumpstart Coffee Company, you're supporting this podcast, you're supporting Jumpstart Coffee Company, and you're supporting the Navy SEALs, the very people that fight every single day for our freedoms. It is a very, very good company, and it is extremely good coffee, I must say. I love all their different flavors, from the light roast to the medium roast, dark and espresso blends. They do have decaf, and the latest, they just introduced a half calf. Great coffee, great cause. That's what we say about Jumpstart Coffee Company. You can save 15% off of your order today when you use the promo code AOA15. Click on the link in the description of this episode to order. That's how we get the credit for the purchase. And of course, you just throw in that promo code AOA15. That's AOA15, and you'll save 15% off your order. Support the podcast, support the troops. Great coffee, great cause. Jumpstart Coffee Company, we thank them for their support. The announcement came out. This letter was released publicly after being sent to the judge. We didn't know what the settlement was. Just a little while after that, sources started talking and, leaking some information here. And we believe that to be about 13 million euro, about $12 million US, give or take a million here or there, whatever the case may be. But that's basically what sources are saying. I do find it interesting that it is a settlement and a payment to Miss Guiffre, and then there is also an element of donating to her charity, which supports victims' rights. So it's going to wind up being more than this $12 million settlement. But as you can see here, that he has also agreed to make that donation to Miss Giuffre's charity. So we'll have to see what that turns out to be. Like I said, this isn't going to be the end of this. I mean, it's the end of the case, but there's going to be some more to come. We haven't heard from Virginia Roberts Giuffre just yet. I would expect her to make some sort of statement in the next couple of days. And there's been no comment from Buckingham Palace or the royal family. I don't expect them to make any sort of a statement. I wouldn't be surprised, because he's handled this pretty poorly up to date. I would not be surprised if Prince Andrew doesn't make a statement or is asked about it in any sort of upcoming public appearances. Now, we all know the Queen is celebrating her Jubilee. We know that there's plans in place to bring Prince Charles up into the big chair. All this talk about Camilla getting the Queen Consort role, even though they said that she wasn't going to get that, like when they got married 15, 17 years ago, whenever that was. But there's going to be a ton of public events for the royal family as this Jubilee celebration continues. I don't know if Prince Andrew is going to be in attendance at any of them. I would gather not. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if he does pop up at something and they ask him a question and there is some sort of an answer. I also found it interesting. Several sources are saying that this money is coming from the royal family. We know that Prince Andrew just sold his chalet, so he's got some money in the bank. We know he has to pay a whole bunch of lawyers, not just for this case, but for several other things. He did owe some money on that chalet itself, so that was part of the money that came out of there. But from what we can tell, again, this may change over the next couple of days, that this money did come from the royal family, came from the Queen. So this money is being settled out. I can't imagine if you're, if you live in Great Britain, you feeling good about the fact that your money is being used to settle this pervert's, crimes. That wouldn't make me feel good, certainly. But that's where we find ourselves today. My reaction to this, I'm shocked. I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little angry, to be perfectly honest with you. And I'll tell you why. I'll lay out all the reasons why. It's hard to get mad at Virginia Giuffre because of all the things that she's gone through. She is a victim. This isn't victim shaming from me. If this were any other situation or scenario, I would be utterly thrilled for her with no caveat, but or notation here. But I do have a notation. I do have a but. And that is this. When Virginia filed this suit, remember this was a special filing because of the Child Victims Act. So here in New York, state law, which happened in 2019, they gave all the victims of child sex abuse cases, they expanded the statute of limitations. So I think she got it in 5 days before the statute was going to expire. So it was kind of a big deal that she stepped up and took this, overwhelming, responsibility, to do this, to take this stand. Obviously, she's fought against Ghislaine Maxwell. This all started with Jeffrey Epstein. She's been very outspoken. She's been a hero for victims anywhere. And I don't mean to besmirch her name. But since she filed that suit, we heard nothing, but there was no way that she was going to settle this case. She has been talking about that since day one, since she filed that motion 5 days before this act was going to, limit the statute there. All she has talked about is the fact that she's going to see this all the way through. And her lawyer, David Boies, who released this statement, has been quoted in interviews saying, "We tried multiple times to come to a settlement with Prince Andrew prior to filing this lawsuit. He gave us the runaround. He wouldn't speak with us. We made several attempts, we made several offers. He wasn't having any of it. So we filed. And I can understand that. I'm with her all the way. I'm on board. You try and try and try to get somebody to right their wrong, and they don't. And then so you use whatever legal recourse you have, and they filed the lawsuit. And then her attitude, quite cavalier, was, now you can't leave. That famous scene in The Bronx Tale. Guys are coming to the bar to bust up the bar. Guy closes the door. Sonny closes the door, locks it. Now you can't leave. And they beat the crap out of those guys. That seemed to be her attitude. You don't want to settle. You want to ignore me. You want to push me off. You want to not acknowledge all the things that were done to me. Now you have to stand with the consequences. And she was going to win. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I feel like it was maybe not a slam dunk. I mean, certainly he had plenty of lawyers and they were going to pull out all their tricks. But the fact that Ghislaine couldn't win, even though she's probably going to have a retrial, it didn't look good for Prince Andrew. And all we heard several times, 3 or 4 times, we've been following this case for a long time. You can go back through all our past episodes. Google Anthony on Air, Prince Andrew, Anthony on Air, Virginia Guiffre. You will see 30, 40, 50 episodes on these two alone, on top of all the stuff that we did with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, where we cover this topic. All she kept saying was, it's too late now. We're going to court. And we followed this all the way through. The fact that they tried to serve him with the papers, which was difficult enough. And they had to go through all these crazy lengths to serve Prince Andrew, because it's hard to serve a member of the royal family. And then they got it done. And then it was, is this actually going to happen? Are they going to settle now that he's been served? And we heard from the lawyer, not settling. We're going all the way. Okay, fine. Then it was obviously, before any trial, there has to be depositions. Will he sit for the deposition? Who knows? And we followed it. And they kept going. And when would they have a date? And then suddenly we had a date, March 10th. March 10th. He was going to sit down in London. Virginia Giuffre's lawyer said, we're going over there. We're going to sit down. We're going to depose Prince Andrew. Holy cow, we said. We're getting closer to see a prince sitting on a witness stand in New York City, having to answer for what he's done. This is going to be groundbreaking. This is going to be epic. A member of the royal family in an American courtroom having to answer for this stuff. Are you going to settle now? It's getting more real. Is he going to settle? Nope, not settling. Not at all. And not only was there just quiet from Prince Andrew's side, he went on the offensive. This case is ridiculous. This case should be thrown out. Jeffrey Epstein's immunity gives me immunity. He tried everything he could. Epstein's sweetheart deal gives me immunity from this. Wrong. The photograph was fake and doctored, and I want to see it. Up until a day or two ago, last episode, he was asking for, his lawyers asked her lawyers for that photograph that was taken in Ghislaine Maxwell's home in London, because he was fighting it. He was saying it wasn't real. He was basically malign everything that he's apologizing for in this statement. He was doing. He was attacking her character, calling her a liar, all this and that. And we heard, no way. I think at one point we even reported that there was a $5 million settlement attempted. I think it was, give us $5 million and we'll go away. No? Okay, then we're going to court. And now we got the news that there's at least $12 million. Who knows how much he's going to be giving to the fund that kicks it up to what? $15 million, $18, $20 million? Who knows? And again, if it was any other victim and there was an attempt to settle for one amount and then they wound up getting double, triple, 4 times that amount, you would be really happy for them. But there was something about this case. Maybe it's just me and my own naivete, but I bought into Virginia Roberts' statement idea of it's not about money. It's not about settling. It's about you owning up to what you did. She said with some pretty harsh words, the only way we would settle is if he takes full responsibility for what he did. Now, I've been in media for a really long time, been involved in radio shows, television, marketing, public relations. This statement is a public relations masterpiece. This is a settlement public statement if I've ever seen one. This is a well-crafted, negotiated, settled upon set of words. Does he admit he's wrong? Kind of. Does he really admit he's wrong? No. Is he sorry for what he did to Virginia Giuffre? Seems like he's sorry for attacking her publicly. Whatever happened before that? Not really, because when you read this, he's apologizing for being pals with Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't actually say that's an admission of guilt. It seems, again, like a carefully negotiated public relations written statement, kind of admitting to some kind of guilt. I'm not guilty. I was friends with the guy who's guilty. It wasn't me, but I'm sorry I was friends with that guy. By the way, just saying, Bill Gates' statements, kind of similar when you look at it. Kind of similar. Like, yeah, I regret being friends with that guy. Regret going to dinner with him, having him over, staying at his house for all hours of the night. Kind of regret that. But, he was a bad guy. What do you want from me? I didn't know. A lot of people saying that. Oh, well, I'm sorry I'm associated with it. Again, there's a lot of things being alleged about Bill Gates. I ain't saying nothing. Your old pal ain't alleging it. But it's kind of funny how they're all sorry they're friends with this guy. But what else are they sorry for? Prince Andrew going, yeah, sorry. I regret being friends with him. But what else do you regret? And the thing, what gets me mad about Virginia Giuffre, and again, I'm not here to victim shame, but she kind of dug her heels into the ground, and I kind of dug it. And I kind of looked at this as a beacon of hope for other victims. It was inspirational, if you will. Hey, if she's not going to take no shit, neither should I. In fact, a few people spoke up. You can go back to our last couple of episodes and check this out for yourself. A few people spoke up after Prince Andrew slammed her in the news. And they were like, I saw the way he talked about her, and I just want to tell you what my experience was. And they gave pretty bold experiences with Prince Andrew that weren't great. Didn't shed a lot of positive light on his character. That's how bad it was. And again, what you're seeing there is Virginia inspiring others to take action, to speak up, to come forward. And that's a big deal. And, again, any other instance, I wouldn't say peep. But because Virginia dug her heels in so hard and said, we're not settling, and here we are at a settlement, I can't help but being a little disappointed. A little disappointed. Feel like, I bought it. I ate the porridge, right? I drank the Kool-Aid. I was like, here we go. We're finally going to get it. We're finally going to get, like we've seen a number of times over the last few years, Weinstein trial, the Cosby trial until he got released, Ghislaine. We're finally seeing these pieces of shit have to pay up for what they've done, have to face their accusers. And a lot of them fell. Again, unfortunately, Cosby's out. Ghislaine is in the midst of trying to get a retrial going. It's not all clean wins, but they were wins. They were progress. And to see her be like, it's not about the settlement anymore. We're going to trial. I was like, yeah, good for you. Good for you. Because that is going to have all kinds of great consequences. That is going to have all kinds of people say that they're not going to be victims anymore and not stand for this shit. It's going to give more people the courage to come forward, talk about what happened to them. Because a lot of the times these things get settled. And look, if a victim doesn't want to face the sort of scrutiny that one has to do in this particular instance, and they just want to take that settlement, and they feel like that hurts the other person and that they can move on, start to become whole again, if that's what does it for them, great. Far be it for me to be like, no, everybody should have to make their accuser. No. Those are horrible things that are done to these people. So any course of action they want to do, I support. They want to take a settlement, great. They want to take money out of a victim's fund, great. They want to go to court, see it all the way through, great. It's their choice. Like I said, the only little exception I make here for Virginia, and it pains me to not be on her side, even though people have accused her of lying. People have said her story doesn't add up. That may be. I believe her. That's just me. Feels like she's been through all sorts of crazy stuff. Not healthy stuff for a young girl. I can't help but have a little issue with it because she said one thing. She said it's not about this. It's not, settlement's not happening unless he takes full responsibility. And then we get this, which is a settlement and practically no responsibility. Now you may be like, Aunt, you're being too hard. The fact that he's said this is good enough. Look, man, that may have been the case 15, 20 years ago, but now here we are post Me Too. That's not enough for me. I would have an easier time if that statement said, I'm sorry for what I did. Even if it's not, I'm sorry for what I did to her. I'm sorry for what I did would have been groundbreaking. Of course, you kind of can't even do that if you're that, Prince Andrew, because, you're admitting full guilt, which they never do in these settlements. He's not sorry for what he did to her. He's sorry for being friends with Jeffrey Epstein. And also the fact that she's been publicly attacked. That's been unfair. Oh, that's unfair. Listen, maybe when Virginia finally speaks, she'll say, it would have been really hard to get a victory. It would have taken a long time. It would have cost me a lot of money. Maybe I'll feel different about it, the next time you and I speak. But for today, I got a text message from a friend of mine who's been following this. And he says, he said to me, he goes, I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's a settlement here. I was like, you've got to be wrong. There's no way. And then he sent me this, statement, and I was shocked. I was shocked and a little angry. Again, because you get so personally invested in these things, and you think the little guy's gonna win. You think it's gonna happen. That's kind of, even if you can't relate to a victim, you look at this. You look at Virginia Giuffre and what has happened with Epstein, Maxwell, and now Prince Andrew, and you go, wow, the little guy's going to win here. Score one for the little person, right? Doesn't feel like we got there. Now, I will say this, because it's a double-edged sword a little bit here. The money that he's giving her, obviously, she went through a horrible thing. But the fact that it's going to this charity, which is supporting victims' rights, I mean, you have a hard time being like, yeah, I stand by everything I've said, but the money's going to go to the right place. Because if there's anybody that can help other victims, it's somebody like this Virginia Giuffre, who, again, I give her all the credit in the world for everything that she's done. It's not an easy thing to do. And she's been sort of the de facto leader of this group of people that this piece of shit Epstein created. She's been the one who's kind of, come to the top and been the, like I said, the de facto leader. She's been fighting these people for a really, really long time. She's been inspiring people all the way. I'm just shocked and stunned and a little hurt. That being said, she deserves everything she got. And if she's going to use that money or some of it to help other victims, it is a good thing. It just, man, it'll never sit with me right the way she said she wasn't going to do this, and then she eventually did. I can't help but wonder, and I know, again, trying to anticipate some of the conspiracy theory people out there, if they'll wonder if that photo really was doctored and the fact that he was pushing so hard perhaps forced this settlement. Maybe it was some other things. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see. I do know, like I said, there's going to be more on this. There's going to be more reaction because this all basically just happened today. We'll hopefully get some sort of a statement from Virginia Giuffre. We haven't had that yet. There is 30 days. They've agreed to this in principle. There is 30 days. Something could change, go wrong. They could wind up going to court. I would guess that that's not going to happen. But again, at 30 days, when this all does become official, I'm sure there'll be some more information. Things could leak and change between now and then. If they do, we'll have it for you on the podcast, as well as the day's other breaking news and fun stories to talk about. That's what we do on this podcast. We kind of talk about what happens in the world, try and give you a little bit of entertainment along with the information. So if you enjoy the content, subscribe on YouTube, hit the bell, get the notifications. Like us on Facebook, make sure you hover over the like button and follow us to get our notifications first. That's super important. We're on Spotify now, one of the first podcasts outside of Joe Rogan to be available via video on Spotify, so you can watch us there as well as listen. They have both available on Spotify, and we're on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and TuneIn and all those other outlets. Wherever other podcasts are available, we're available. So check us out wherever. AnthonyOnAir.com has all our other links and information. And of course, we do have a merch store, which we just put up some new merch. You can go to shopanthonyonair.com or anthonyonair.com to get that. Special episode. Thanks so much for joining me. Frankie C, Jay Sams, they'll be back with us again as we cover up more topics. But we wanted to get you this episode because this all happened today, and we couldn't sit on it. And we hope you've enjoyed. There'll be more on this, I'm sure. More on everything the next time we get to see it. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And we'll catch you on the next one.